Hi, this is Dr. Judy Quillisi-Timke, and I'm Chief Scientific Officer at Calorie Life.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sergey Ostoich. It's a great privilege to have an opportunity to talk about our recent research with Alpha Hope in elderly.
And so today we're going to talk about what is Alpha Hope, and we're also going to talk about the new human double-blind placebo-controlled study. So first of all, we're going to talk about why is it important to look at cognition in studying an older population. In general, cognition declines with age. And so it's very important to understand that the brain controls thinking, uh, mental focus, attention, and is very important for everyday life, including activities and tasks that need to be performed. What is Alpha Hope and how does it work? Alpha Hope is made up of pyrroloquinoline quinone, which is PQQ, and molecular hydrogen. PQQ is a vitamin-like substance compound that is found in fruits and vegetables and has been studied to show that it has great potential for brain health. Molecular hydrogen, or if we look at hydrogen, it's the smallest molecule around. So it's easily absorbed into the body, including the brain. There are multiple studies with molecular hydrogen for the brain, but also for different body systems.
Before I start discussing about this interesting research, I would just like to share why we started initially this study. I am a medical doctor with a PhD in experimental medical science, and my postgraduate education included mitochondrial medicine, nutrition, and metabolism. And I'm leading a lab, applied bioenergetics lab, acting also as a professor of nutrition at the University of Agder in Norway and professor of biomedical sciences in Novi Sad in Serbia. I have an experience of more than 20 years doing really different studies, including different nutraceuticals that affects human health, from neurodegenerative disorders to cardiometabolic disorders, as well as other conditions. I'm really privileged that was able to assess the effects of Alpha Hope in mild cognitive impairment. This is something that's very prevalent these days, becoming an aging population. And it's really interesting that up to 25% of population actually have this mild cognitive impairment. It's not a disease, it's just a condition when people are having problems with concentration and memory. And there is so many different studies all across the world trying to find something that is effective and could help to improve the cognition in this population and make their life easier. So I'm really happy to see and share some of the information regarding this study that affected actually cognition in this population, but also some other indicators of brain function.
So, who were the participants in the study, and how long was the study, and what was the dosage regimen?
That's an excellent question because we decided to recruit people who are otherwise healthy, so older than 65 years. They have a mild cognitive impairment assessed by a traditional scale we use, which is mental state examination scale used in assessing the cognition of population. And we decided to select the protocol that lasted for 6 weeks. And we recruited more than 30 participants, actually 34 people were recruited here. They consumed Alpha Hope 2 times per day, and we evaluated them before the intervention and after the 6 weeks of intervention using parallel group design, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, which is randomized and also registered in the clinicaltrials.gov. And I'm very proud of that because it is probably the biggest database of all clinical trials across the world. So it tells us a little bit more about the quality of this design.
Very good. We're going to talk about why Alpha Hope is unique. First of all, the proprietary manufacturing process makes it completely unique compared to other products on the market or even single ingredients for brain function. And besides that, the combination of the two, the duo, has demonstrated to have great benefits for cognitive function. And these include increasing PGC1 alpha, NERV2, BDNF, choline, and a few other markers, also increasing oxygenation in the brain. Dr. Sergey, how does the study contribute to the field of nutritional interventions for brain health?
We have a lot of experience doing different studies and using really plenty of different interventions in terms of addressing the brain function and cognition. And this study is really unique because it combines two very effective compounds, PQQ and hydrogen, that has probably a couple of different effects on human health, and particularly brain health. This study was unique because the combination was really unique. This is the first study in the world doing this type of intervention in elderly with mild cognitive impairment, and we evaluated plenty of biomarkers, not just some biomarkers in the blood, but specifically we assessed the cognition and also brain function using very robust and gold standard methods of assessing brain function, including the brain oxygenation and brain metabolism. And what appears to be really interesting, this combination affected both cognition, which is very important. Me as a medical doctor, is always important for me to help people, to get something besides the biomarker, so people felt better, particularly one specific area of cognition. But also we noticed that this combination was effective to improve the brain metabolism, including some indicators of mitochondria inside the brain, membrane viability of the neurons, and some other indices. So this is something that is really unique because comparing the robust design and very effective supplement ended up in a study that I'm very proud of.
And so, what were the significant improvements observed in brain chemicals linked to memory and thinking?
We usually assess the level of brain metabolites using magnetic resonance spectroscopy. This is the gold standard method of non-invasively to non-invasively assess the level of brain metabolism. And there are three biomarkers that we evaluated in this study, and I'm very happy to tell you that actually one metabolite, which is choline, semi-essential nutrient, has been improved after the intervention of alpha hope. Choline is it has many different roles in the human body. You probably know about that. And one of the most important rules is the choline is actually a component of membranes all across the body, particularly in the brain. And we evaluated in this study and we assessed actually the level of choline all across the brain. And it appears that at two specific locations in the brain related with memory, the choline has increased after the end of the intervention. That means that actually somehow alpha hope helps to support membrane viability across the brain, which theoretically could suggest that it's kind of neurotropic, supporting that function of the brain. This is just part of the story. We also evaluated another important indicator of brain metabolism. It's even more interesting. And I'm so excited to share this with you. It's N-acetyl aspartate. It's amino acid that is only available in the brain. So it's brain-specific molecule. And all across the brain, we find an increase in the level of NAA after the end of the alpha hope intervention. In the 7 out of 13 locations, it has a significant improvement. NAA is a good indicator of mitochondrial function. So it supports the energy inside the brain. Alpha hope appears to be very impactful in terms of supporting the brain energy in this specific population. That could tell us that actually through the mitochondrial bioenergetics, alpha hope help us to keep the level of brain energy high in this sensitive population.
It's wonderful. Also, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, was significantly increased in the alpha hope group. And BDNF is known as the miracle grow for the brain. And it has demonstrated in general to be associated with increased mental focus, alertness, and memory.
For us, it's very important to compare the effects of alpha hope with placebo, and it's very important that placebo was more the alpha hope was more effective than placebo in increasing the level of BDNF in the blood. Although it's something that is really a kind of, okay, we didn't measure BDNF in the brain, but we measure it in the blood. It's strong, very strong effect. So this is probably one of the most important findings of this study.
Another marker, irisin, also increase, there was a trend of an increase in the alpha hope group while it decreased in the placebo group, which was very interesting.
Exactly. Definitely, we could say that the alpha hope could affect all these mitochondria related indices we assess in this study, not just the mitochondria bioenergetics, which is probably very important, but also antioxidant status. You probably know the mitochondria is a source of many different chemicals, and probably very important in terms of apoptosis and aging in general. So we could say with a lot of confidence that mitochondria might be the place of the cell where alpha hope express part of its activity.
And so, how do you think that these improvements translate to better everyday functioning?
Well, at the end of the day, the patients or participants or whoever is consuming an intervention like Alpha Hope would like to see something that they really feel, not just to see improvement in the biomarkers, because they couldn't see if something changed in their blood. But it's very important to see they feel better in terms of cognition. Particularly, one element of cognition has been improved here significantly more than in placebo. It's a concept of orientation. It means that people better orient themselves in terms of time, in terms of place, in terms of other people. So people could easily get all these stressors of everyday life if they consume alpha hope, particularly those guys with mild cognitive impairment, such a prevalent condition.
How did alpha hope affect brain oxygen levels? It's
That,
amazing how it was measured.
yeah, thank you for that question. It's really interesting. This is also something that we are very proud of doing this part of the research in my lab, because we use the near infrared spectroscopy, another very nice method to measure the level of oxygen, actually the blood flow in the frontal part of the brain. The frontal part of the brain is critical in terms of executive function, so it's very important in cognition. And we find out that the alpha hope somehow increase the level of oxygen in the frontal part of the brain. That means brain gets more oxygen, which is critical component of normal function after the alpha hope intervention. So I can say that people might profit through that oxygenation of frontal brain if they consume alpha hope. So this is another possible mechanism how alpha hope increase the level of brain function, including the cognition, mitochondria, and stuff like that. Of course, it's very hard to understand what exactly happens in the cell. So probably additional studies might be needed to address that in terms of deep molecular mechanisms. But so far, this is very strong evidence that alpha hope can improve the brain blood flow.
Just amazing. One other thing I'd like to mention about choline. Choline is very popular in our industry, but what's amazing is this product actually increased choline, which is a precursor to acetylcholine, which has a major effect on cognitive function in the body. And so in terms of the levels of choline changes, did you have anything else to add in terms of its effect or?
Yes, of course. Choline is a semi-essential nutrient, and besides being a component of acetylcholine, it's also a component of phosphatidylcholine, and this is a critical component of membranes. So you probably know that by being older, the membranes lose their normal electrical potential to transfer the signal throughout the brain, and that is why we feel losing concentration with being older, poor memory and stuff like that. And using alpha hope actually improved the level of choline across the brain. So this is really, really interesting, and I think that might be related with supporting that phosphatidylcholine synthesis inside the brain that makes membrane working better after consuming alpha choline. So that might add to different effects of procholine impact of alpha hope.
We also did a study at the University of Memphis measuring a couple biomarkers that significantly demonstrate that they would improve cognitive function. Did you want to discuss that?
Yes, this is a very nice study, evaluating the similar biomarkers in a elderly population, and definitely that is in line with our results. We also find the improvement in several mitochondrial biomarkers here in our study, and that definitely confirms the fact that probably cognition is related to mitochondria in the brain, and anything that could upholds either the antioxidant activities inside the organ or mitochondrial bioenergetics might be helpful in this elderly population, particularly in those who suffer a mild cognitive impairment.
And these two markers that were measured at the University of Memphis were PGC1 alpha, which is the Hope molecule, and also NERV2.
I also would like to add something that is really relevant for our study. It's always complex when you have a medium-term intervention like this one. 6 weeks is not a short period of time, particularly when we are talking about elderly. We have a pretty nice compliance here. It's very rarely that you see people consuming regularly their supplements, although we push them all the time by phone and etc. So we have here more than 90% of compliance, meaning this product might be effective and tasty. So those guys, those elderly population, and please let me remind you that the average age here was over 70 years. Those guys were very interested into consuming this supplement.
Which is wonderful. Were there any significant side effects reported by the participants?
This is a very good question. We conducted this study not just as a brain function and performance study, but also as a safety study. So we asked our participants throughout the trial about the subjectively reported side effects, but we also did plenty of different biomarkers of safety, and we didn't find anything that should be considered adverse. So no changes in liver enzymes, kidney enzymes, and other indicators of clinical chemistry, including the hematology status or lipid profiles. And it's interesting also that our participants didn't report any relevant or major side effects. So at least in this population, in our study, I could say that this product is quite safe without any adverse events.
And that's
reported.
so important. And in general, in taking Alpha Hope, the study actually provided one tablet before a meal in the morning and then one tablet in the evening before dinner. But two tablets can be taken together at another time of the day. And it's very simple to use. It's just dropping the tablets into water and watching them completely dissolve and then drinking the solution, which is actually pretty tasty.
It is. That is something that I would like to add, a bit, because we did plenty of studies, also some studies with hydrogen, and this is just an impression of participants consuming this specific preparation of hydrogen and PQQ, which is Alpha Hope. They said this is the most tasty product. Some of them were recruited in previous studies, so it's a tasty. And also, I would like to highlight the fact that many participants subjectively reported feeling, more energetic and having better sleep. And this is something that we didn't measure by itself, but a couple of guys, particularly ladies, suggested us that they're feeling better, So that might be also something that should be communicated to people as well.
Would you say that Alpha Hope is suitable for all individuals? And can anyone at any age take Alpha Hope?
Well, it's hard to answer because my experience so far is just from this study, and I would like to really share the information which is evidence-based. So, in my opinion, this is definitely safe and promising intervention for mild cognitive impairment elderly, but probably people who are also old and could face in future some impairment in cognition might profit for this consumers of this product.
In the research of the individual ingredients, PQQ as well as molecular hydrogen had been used by younger populations with great results. So I think that there'd be a benefit, for younger people with the product also.
Yeah, I have some knowledge on this. PQQ is around us for almost 70 years, and many authors consider this as a longevity vitamin, and there is an interesting paper published in Nature a few decades ago about PQQ as a new vitamin, so some people might consider it very important. And I know that is used all across the different domains in medicine, as well as hydrogen, which I'm pretty confident doing my research and being in this area for so long that it could benefit many other populations. But I think, this is unique because we have both hydrogen and PQQ in a sole product. This is the first time I analyzed this, and probably future studies should definitely expand different generations, and looking forward for the future opportunities to perhaps conduct the similar studies in younger people to see how the alpha hope affect the cognition or brain function in this population as well.
One thing to mention is with any dietary supplement, a person who may have a health condition and or take medication should ask their doctor first before taking it to be sure it's okay. I was wondering or wanting to get your opinion, who else do you think would benefit from taking Alpha Hope?
Well, of course, we confirm that there are benefits in people who are elderly in this study. But I think everybody who have any problem with, impaired mitochondrial function, particularly related with the brain, might profit from this. So people who are under the stress, who are sleep deprived, or who face heavy exercise, they probably have some impairment in mitochondrial function, particularly in the brain. So all these guys might profit from consuming alpha home, and it would be really great to assess those cohorts and populations in further studies.
As you mentioned, sleep deprived, I remember the one study that was done with molecular hydrogen against caffeine showing that it had similar benefits but did not have the problem of the jitters that caffeine would give.
Exactly, yeah, that study has been conducted in my lab a few years ago, and my PhD student did a couple of studies analyzing the effects of hydrogen in sleep-deprived population, and we find really that hydrogen might tackle different elements of brain metabolism compared to caffeine. So you could consider alpha hope as something that is a little bit boosted with PQQ, and definitely might be interesting for further studies to analyze people who are sleep deprived or have any other problems with stress. And of course, we are also facing a population that have a so many problems with sleep. So that might be, Julie, another pathway how to address the beneficial effects of alpha hope in the future.
One of the things that I looked at, which amazed me in terms of showing that there was increased oxygenation in the brain, I looked at just research alone on increasing oxygenation in the brain, and it's amazing how it's been shown to increase mental function, alertness, and so forth.
Yes, that's exactly the truth. And this study might be interesting because we evaluated the level of brain oxygenation in the frontal cortex, which is probably the critical part of the brain in terms of regular life and executive function. So, of course, it would be maybe interesting to evaluate the oxygenation in other parts of the brain, but definitely this is a nice first try how to understand that blood flow effect, possible blood flow enhancement of alpha hope.
Well, and because it was measured in the gray matter is known or associated with increased mental function, memory, emotions, and also movement. So
Yes.
that's something to think about.
Yeah, true. I always like to talk about the brain, but this is something which is really point of interest of my lab and my personal interest. In this study, we actually evaluated the level of different metabolites in the white matter, in the gray matter, in the thalamus, all across the brain. And we are very confident that alpha hope improved earlier mentioned the metabolites in these areas. So it's not just one specific part of the brain, it's probably everywhere in this complex organ, the alpha hope had some kind of footprint.
Can you summarize the main findings of the study?
Thank you. Yes, of course, I think it's very important to tell that alpha hope is effective to improve cognition, specific segments of cognition, particularly orientation, but also brain metabolism and some biomarkers of mitochondrial function in elderly with mild cognitive impairment without any safety problems. And Besides that, the quality of this study may be also suggested by the fact that we are presenting part of our results at the annual conference of American Society of Nutrition here in Chicago. And also, this study has been published in well-renowned journal, which is probably one of the best journals in the field, Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging, a few weeks ago, highlighting the importance of these findings. So, as a medical doctor, and according to these results, I could recommend this supplement, this product, Alpha Hope, to the people with mild cognitive impairment. But of course, it would be great to expand the research, and perhaps further studies are needed to address some other aspects of this interesting and exciting product.
I just want to thank you, Dr. Sergey, for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of this interview and discussing the great significant benefits from the Alpha Hope study.
It was a pleasure. I'm looking forward very much to continue the collaboration with your company. And, I think your personal engagement in this study was much appreciated, Judy. Thank you.